that you may have. Again, we would like to provide a warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for being a part of our PFO Virtual Parent and Family Orientations Fireside Chat. So a little bit about our Fireside Chat. It's to provide more of an insight onto student resources, tips, and also provide support to you all during this transition of your students' period. Again, these are free. They're 1 hour where you have a live session with a campus partner, organization, or a different type of resource where you can ask any questions and learn more about it. So thank you for being here today to our June 21st PFO Fireside Chat presentation. Before we begin, we would like to cover a couple of our housekeeping techniques that we have here. All of our sessions will be recorded as we will later on upload. We'll also let everyone know that at this point, we ask for all of our cameras to be turned off. If you have any questions, I'll talk a little bit more about that process and how we can connect with you regarding your questions. But we do have Zoom features such as chat, raise your hand, and reactions that you're more than welcome to utilize those. For our Zoom etiquette, I do ask for you to mute yourself just so that we don't avoid any distractions to our speaker for today, and also so that we're all are able to listen and hear the information appropriately as possible. We know that you have a lot of questions, so we do ask that you leave your questions towards the end, but you're more than welcome to use the chat feature to ask your questions in case you were to forget. We will have it on file. Again, my name is Amy Santos, and I am the new program coordinator here at Parent and Family Programs. I look forward to providing this resource for you all today, and we look forward to connecting in the upcoming weeks. So going back to using the chat feature, as you see here in the slide, we want to make sure that you're able to utilize that. You will see an icon that says chat on it. Feel free to click on that and then write in or type in your questions that you may have, or comments or observations. Again, this is a feature that you can utilize, and only myself and our presenter of today will be able to see your questions or concerns that you may have. This is actually a most use, and we would like to encourage you to utilize it so we're able to process any questions that you may have during this presentation. So without further ado, we would like to introduce our University Center for Undergraduate Advising campus partner. We have our speaker for today, Josh, who is the Associate Director of the University Center for Undergraduate Advising. Josh, welcome. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to the information that you'll be providing our parents, family, guardians, and supporters. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Amy. Welcome, everyone. Again, my name is Josh Sapansky. I'm one of 2 associate directors in the University Center for Undergraduate Advising at Cal State Long Beach. We love acronyms, so we're also known as UCUA or UCUA. You'll hear that quite often. So we'll get into my presentation. The way this is going to work is I'm going to basically go over several frequently asked questions. We've done a lot of these sessions over the years and gathered questions that parents and family have asked and posed towards us. And I want to answer those, mainly pertinent to our first-time first-year students, but also pertinent to our incoming transfer students. I think we'll cover those, and then we'll try to field your personal questions and get to those towards the end. If we've got some more time, I will run through some information on our webpage. Specifically related to that, you might make note of our webpage here. If you go to csulb.edu/UCUA, you can find pretty detailed information related to what we do for our students that we're charged with serving. But also you can find information specifically related to some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, mainly freshman or first-time first-year mandatory advising, as well as different resources that are good for all students across the board. So we'll get started with some questions here. And again, there's an email account, aa-advising@csulb.edu. Your student can always send a message there. You can send a message there if you'd like as well. I can give you guys my personal email at the end of the session here as well if you're interested in trying to connect with me personally. Thanks. So let's just go ahead and start with some information about the center I represent. Basically, the University Center for Undergraduate Advising, or UCUA, serves as the primary advising center for undeclared students or students who are exploring majors. Okay. It can also be a center that's available for students who are looking to identify a new major. So a lot of our first-time first-year students will change major. On average, they change major 2 to 3 times. So kind of keep that in mind. And we're the resource to help your student if your student is looking for a new major. We're also the primary source for information about university policy related to major declaration. We serve students who are seeking assistance in creating a strategy to return to good academic standing after they fall on academic warning. So if your student ever experiences trouble related to grades, if they fall on academic warning, we're the main resource to help students get off of academic warning and return to good academic standing. We provide information about reinstatements in the university and readmission if a student has left and wants to return. We also coordinate several mentoring programs. One of those is known as Gen Excel. It's for first generation students. It's an invitation only program, but it does serve first year students who basically are the first to attend college in their family. We coordinate advising efforts for the Long Beach College Promise, which is basically a partnership between Long Beach State, Long Beach City College, the community college locally, Long Beach Unified School District, and then the city of Long Beach. Coordinate advising efforts for that. We also coordinate advising for and provide resources for students who are transitioning as transfer students. So we have a Beach Transfer Transition Center, which is basically there to help connect your transfer student to an appropriate advising center or faculty advisor, and also just provide resources and orienting activities, social activities for those students. So that's just a sample of some of the stuff that we do. Pretty simply put, we're a great place to start. So if your student is unsure where to go for academic advice or almost anything, they can head on over to the University Center for Undergraduate Advising. You can always go to that webpage with our physical location. We're centrally located in the middle of campus, and we can get your student to the right place. If we can't serve them, we will find out who will. Second question here related to how your students served. How is academic advising organized at Cal State Long Beach? So again, we're one of many academic advising centers. Depending upon whether or not your student is a pre-major or declared major, they may have access to a college advising center, or they may have access to a faculty advisor. Difference between an advisor in my center versus an advisor who's a faculty member. Faculty member basically teaches courses, right? They have a role in setting requirements for the major. They can offer mentorship in terms of major related activities and research and things like that. So your student may have access to those centers as well. Also, if they're a part of a special program like the Educational Opportunity Program or TRIO or University Honors, or if they're an athlete, they may have access to additional academic advisors who can assist them. All right, so then why is academic advising mandatory? Get this question a lot, sometimes mainly from our students, right? Our parents and family are interested in us being somewhat intrusive related to helping their student, but students ask about this. Why do I have to go talk to an academic advisor? Basically, key information is shared with a student to set them on a path for success during the first year, beyond that as well. So there's mandatory contact with advisors required during fall and required during spring. Probably already noticed this, but SOAR is also required. So orientation, advising, and registration is required. We do this basically to make sure your student stays on track. I think that's in their best interest. It's in your best interest in terms of cost saving measures, right? We want to make sure that students get in, complete their degree, and do this in a timely fashion, stay on track. And mandatory contact is part of that. So your student needs to get used to corresponding with their academic advisor. Their academic advisor is going to reach out to them as early as this summer to help them plan, to begin planning for the following semester. There are several activities that your personal academic advisor, your academic advising center may want your student to experience during that first semester, and then during that second semester to plan for the following summer and the following fall. Okay, we do that. We basically enforce that via what are called holds. We'll talk about those in just a second. All right, let's see what else. What are major specific requirements and why are they important? You'll hear about this quite a bit, especially from our first year students. Basically, you can picture major specific requirements are basically admission requirements for majors. So all majors require specific courses that need to be completed by the time a student earns 60 units. So that's typically the end of that fourth semester, moving from the second year into the third year in most cases. So there are specific courses that need to be completed by that point for them to be fully declared within a major. Some highly impacted majors require specific courses that need to be completed within the first 2 semesters. Some majors require a very specific cutoff GPA within the first 2 semesters, mainly speaking about majors like nursing, mainly speaking about majors like within the STEM field, so biology, chemistry, any of the engineering options. They may require your student to complete certain courses within those first 2 semesters, and if the student doesn't complete that, they may need to find an alternative major. This is not to be punitive. What this is basically to make sure that your student's oriented to the major that they've chosen, right? And it allows them to make sure that the major is a good fit, okay? And oftentimes our students, have a certain idea about a particular major and need to adjust that idea based upon their experiences with courses. And that's just the reality. But we can assist them in the University Center for Undergraduate Advising in navigating what those requirements are, and then help them figure out if they're a good fit, and then see if they want to do a different major, and support them, with any choice that they make. All right, and then we'll go into this next set of questions. I'm moving through these quickly because I want to leave some time for your individual questions. I was asked earlier this week to cover what's called FERPA. You'll probably hear about this from time to time. Basically, FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974. Reason we bring this up is we're talking to parents in most cases, or family members or guardians, right? What you need to know is that FERPA basically is a federal law that potentially restricts university faculty, staff, and administrators from sharing information about a student's academic record without their express permission. So this basically kicks into effect when your student is an adult, right? If they're 18 years or older, they have a right to not share their grades or course enrollment and things like that with you. Now, with that said, we want you to build a strong relationship so that they do share that information. But just know, if you reach out to a campus office, if you reach out to me and ask me what your student's grades are, and they're over the age of 18 and they don't have what they call a FERPA waiver on file, then I can't share that information with you. I would encourage you to be in close contact with your student, be checking in, asking about those grades, asking about enrollment, asking about what they're learning during mandatory advising, so that you build that strong relationship and you get that information, okay? But just know that there is a federal law that prevents us from sharing it. There is a means to get what's called a FERPA waiver. If you Google FERPA waiver, CSULB, there's actually an informational video that Enrollment Services puts out that will walk you through how to make that request. Again, I wouldn't really encourage that. I would encourage that you build that relationship so that they share that information. All right, what information is reviewed prior to suggestions being made for a student's first semester schedule? So this is happening right now for a lot of our students. They're basically working with academic advisors to create first semester course schedules. And to be honest, there's quite a bit that goes into making those recommendations. A lot of our students these days our incoming first year students are taking courses at the community college during high school. A lot of them are doing dual enrollment, where they're basically earning college credit while completing a high school degree. A lot of our students have advanced placement credit, AP, have international baccalaureate credit, IB, like I said, community college credit, maybe even university credit. So all of that is taken into account when an academic advisor makes course suggestions. So we do this in a few different ways. Main way is we send out a survey. So there's a first year survey, advising survey that gets sent out to every student. On that, the student will indicate what credit they have. Then an advisor will check in with the advisee, with the first year student, just to see what credit they have again, just to double check. And then that information, along with placement information, so mainly like what math courses they completed during high school, where they're at in terms of English composition credit, also like GPAs from high school, all that information basically gets reviewed, and then course recommendations get determined. Now, if anything changes, if a student forgets to report something, especially when AP credit comes in. So in the next few weeks here in the beginning of July, we'll start receiving those AP scores from the College Board. If there's any type of discrepancy, the advising centers will then reach out to the student to help them adjust their schedule based upon any credit earned. Your advisee can be proactive, though. If your student remembers, hey, I did have AP English credit, but I got into an English composition course, they can reach out directly to their advising center and help the advising center basically help them make the adjustment. Another thing that gets included is pretty obviously is what major the student is pursuing. So we definitely ask those types of questions, even of our undeclared or exploring students. We ask them what majors they're potentially thinking about. And typically we'll make a recommendation to take an introductory course, right? Maybe have them satisfy one of those major specific requirements, one of those admission requirements for a major. That's the best way to test out a major, get a feel for whether or not it's going to be a good fit. I think a common misconception, especially for undeclared students, is that the student should just take general education courses the first 2 years. That is not necessarily true. So our first year and second year students do take a lot of general education, but they also need to satisfy those major specific requirements because, again, they have to be completed by the time they earn 60 units, and it's important for them to test out major courses. They don't want to just rack up all their GE credit and not leave any of that until the upper division portion, because they want to have a balanced schedule. And it's also really important to just explore. Let's see other things. If your student's a transfer student, we basically are looking at transcripts from any institution they've attended. Those have to be evaluated, and then we get a feel for what's still outstanding. Oftentimes the faculty play a role in that. They'll review the coursework that comes in, the course credit that comes in, and then make appropriate recommendations based on upper division courses, so junior or senior level courses that the transfer student will be taking. All right, why does my student have a registration hold? Another super common question, mainly from students, but sometimes from parents and family. A student could have a hold on the account that prevents enrollment for any number of reasons. Right now, it's probably related to the student either like needing to attend advising and registration, or needing to attend orientation. If they've attended advising and registration and they're a first year student, just get used to having a hold on the account. Basically, that hold stays on the account because even if they've enrolled in courses, we don't want the student to go in and kind of unravel the schedule by switching courses and adding something that's not appropriate. Okay, a lot of work, as we've mentioned, goes into planning these course enrollment schedules, and we want to make sure that the students in the appropriate classes. That doesn't mean that the student can't change the schedule. They definitely can. They just need to reach out to the advisor they worked with or the advising center they worked with, and that hold can be temporarily removed to allow for adjustments. Oftentimes our students will, get a job or something will change with their personal schedule and they'll need to make some adjustments. That's totally fine. They just need to contact the advising center or advisor they're working with, and we'll temporarily remove that hold to allow them to make the switch. Then the hold will come back on. The other thing the student needs to know is coming into the fall term, they'll have a hold on their account, which will basically require that they go to that mandatory advising, either meeting or workshop or series of workshops. They'll need to complete whatever requirement that college advising center or their academic advisor is requiring of them in order for the hold to be removed, so that they can then register for spring courses. That happens again in spring to register for summer and for the following fall courses. Again, we want to make sure that students are in appropriate courses and stay on track, and that's our best way to ensure that that happens. All right, next one here. How can my student prepare to meet with an academic advisor? Okay, I can't stress this enough, and I know it's difficult for all of us sometimes, but they need to check their student email account and actually read the messages, right? So reading the messages thoroughly, not just skimming them, making note. If anything's unclear, maybe they need to reach out to you to talk to you about it too. But they should reach out to an academic advisor, most importantly, if there's any message they receive from the university that's unclear. Okay, can't count the number of times I have a student come in confused, and it's mainly because they have been receiving messages but they haven't been reading them. And it's really, really important. Also really important because instructors will send messages as well, information about whether or not a course meeting was canceled, or a Zoom link for an online course, or course syllabus, things like that. It's really important that a student stay on top of their student email and read every message, check it every day, and read every message thoroughly. Many advising centers will ask freshmen to prepare for their meetings or workshops by doing something. We specifically in the University Center for Undergraduate Advising, we have students complete web modules, and oftentimes those web modules need to be completed prior to the meeting with the actual advisor, just so that the advisee is well informed and that conversation flows better. We can probably take a look at some of those if we've got some time towards the end. During fall, students will receive messages about mandatory freshman advising and preparing for spring, definitely. They'll be informed about things like a withdrawal deadline, right? academic standing, all kinds of different messages. All right, why are academic advisors a good first stop regardless of your student's question? Mainly because academic advising centers are comprehensive referral services, okay? We use a system to communicate with each other. So all the advisors, basically, when there's an interaction with your student, that gets logged in a system that we call Beach Connect. So Beach Connect is several things. It's a way for your student to make an appointment. It's a way for us to proactively reach out and have your student make an appointment. But it also just allows academic advisors across the campus to see what each other are basically sharing in terms of academic advice. So it allows advisors, instructors, it even allows tutors to take notes on there, and basically let us get a comprehensive history of like where your student has gone for advice, what tutoring they're attending. Some instructors even submit what we call like early alerts. So if like your student is struggling in a particular class, maybe they've like failed an exam, that could get flagged in the system, and that helps our advisors be informed and kind of know where your student's at in terms of progress. All right. Why is it crucial to identify a parallel plan or backup major? So this is a good one too. Really, really important to always kind of have a few ideas in terms of major, mainly because students change their minds, right? On average, I mentioned most first-time first-year students over the course of their first year may change their major 2 to 3 times before finally settling on a major. That's fairly typical. Your student might try a major and find out it's not the right fit, right? And then they may need to take courses that'll take them in another direction. Pretty commonly, I give the example of, students being interested in engineering, interested in, a lucrative career as an engineer, right? But not necessarily fully informed about like what it takes to become an engineer, right? That there's multiple calculus courses, that there are multiple physics courses. There's a variety of courses that are sequential, that build upon each other. Same could be said for the STEM field. Sometimes we get students who are just interested in like going into pre-med or becoming a doctor. Definitely need to know that there's a lot of chemistry involved. There's a sequence of chemistry courses that need to be navigated for students to major in something like biology, to go on to do pre-med, to get admitted to a professional health program. Something like biology, something like chemistry, things like that, all kind of basing on a chemistry sequence. So it's important that those two things match up, that your student is, not only has an interest in a particular field, but is also completing the coursework that will help them make sure that this is a good fit. And aside from that, getting help, getting tutoring, putting in the work they need to navigate these majors that are more sequential. What else? In the case of like highly impacted majors, so I give the example of nursing. Nursing is the most highly impacted major on campus. They have very strict rules related to how a student becomes eligible to move into the pre-nursing status, which then allows them access to apply to the program. In that example, there are so few students that get into the program, it is absolutely necessary for them to have a parallel plan, because most students that apply to the major will not get in. And that's just the reality. I give that one as the extreme example. Most other majors, they just need to navigate those major specific requirements, satisfy them, and they'll be admitted to the major without applying or anything like that. It's just satisfying the minimum requirement and meeting the cutoff GPA. But the extreme example is something like nursing, where you are applying and you are competing against other students to get into the program. We can go over those if we've got time here towards the end. All right, next slide here. Finally, I think, how can I support my students' success? That you're doing it right now, right? By attending a session like this. We don't have a ton of people here, but you guys are basically showing that you are interested in supporting your students' success and getting to know kind of what the resources are, who they're going to be working with at this big, massive university, right? It's basically crucial for you to check in with your student, right? Ask them how they're doing in class, right? Ask them if they're utilizing campus resources. Tutoring at the university level is not for students who are struggling. It's for students who want to earn an A in a course, okay? A lot of our courses are challenging, especially if we're talking about students pursuing majors in the STEM field. Again, engineering, majoring in the sciences, right? It's absolutely important for a student to make sure that they are connecting with not only academic advisors, but tutors and their instructors. Can't stress that enough. There's a variety of tutoring centers available on campus. One of them is the Learning Center that's located right next to the University Center for Undergraduate Advising, but there are a variety of different tutoring centers available. I'm going to show you in just a second. I think we'll have time here to show you some resources that are available on the UCUA webpage that we flashed earlier, csulb.edu/UCUA. If you click on resources, there's a list. There's a comprehensive list of tutoring centers that are available there, as well as a link to those major specific requirements I mentioned that are so important, those admission requirements for different majors. And then aside from that, we could probably go over some of the information that we provide for exploring students related to helping them find a best fit major, and then some of the web modules that we require our students, our undeclared and exploring students to complete as part of preparation for mandatory advising. And then finally, I'll show you a web page related to identifying a best fit major if your student is having doubts or is maybe thinking about trying to explore an alternative. I think maybe before that, we'll start taking your questions, but I think that's the end of my FAQ, and we'll open it up for your questions. I think we've already got some. So again, yeah, here's our web page, and we'll go through some stuff in there in just a second if we've got time.
Great. Thank you, Josh, very much for this information. We're actually going to go ahead and answer the questions in order that they were received. The first question that we received was, my student was accepted to the UHP. Do you think taking 2 honors classes in their first semester is a good idea?
So I posed that question to the honors advisors. I don't think it's unheard of. I mean, again, if your student was admitted to the honors program, definitely has a higher than average GPA, and is basically is the caliber of student that could probably handle it. So it kind of depends on the courses, but I would probably pose that question to the UHP directly. This is an example of a group that has extra support, right? So not only do they have their college-based advising center or advisor, or if they're undeclared, they have an academic advisor in the UCUA. They also have access to honors academic advisors. So they basically advise specifically to the program requirements, but they can talk about the content of those specific courses. Just know UHP courses, I mean, basically those classes are like handpicked, those instructors are handpicked to work with honors students. They do have to do a certain amount of honors courses throughout their time here. I don't know that, they can definitely not take any honors courses their first semester if they wanted. They could take one. I think typically they recommend that they do at least like one per term if possible, but I don't think 2 is unheard of. So if they were enrolled in 2, I would assume that's based on the recommendation of an honors advisor. And if it wasn't, I would just have them double check with the honors advisor. So Google UHP, CSULB, that'll get you their contact info, and then they definitely have contact information. You can reach out to them directly, and your student should already have that as well, sent to them via email.
Thank you.
Great question.
Follow-up question, what happens if they don't complete GEs by 60 units?
So they're not expected to complete general education by 60 units. It's actually they have to complete those major specific requirements by 60 units. I think I can share screen, and let's just actually show you those rather than talk about it. So hang on one second. Let me grab this, and I will share screen. So this is one way to find almost anything at CSULB is our good friend Google, right? CSULB, and then you can throw in major specific requirements. And for first year students, right? Students who are entering as first year, that's AKA freshmen. We don't use the term freshman anymore, but first year, this is the list that they want to go off of, the one that says for CSULB students. For our transfer students, they probably were already reviewing these for admission requirements. So this would be more for like a prospective student that hasn't applied yet. They would look at that list. For our students who are here as first year, coming out of high school, these are the requirements. Can you guys see my screen okay? I think.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So I would read through all this information. It kind of details like what major specific requirements are, but basically these are what has to be satisfied. And they organize it by college. So for example, you could go to the College of Liberal Arts, our largest college on campus. I'm just going to swing down here to sociology, my undergraduate major. For sociology, specifically, they need to have a minimum cumulative GPA of 2.25. So this is an overall GPA. They have to have a C or better in sociology 100 and sociology 142. And then they have to have these 4 general education courses completed. Okay. They're going to have much more of this completed, but this is the minimum in order for them to be fully declared within the major. I chose this one kind of for an example. Basically, this is sort of one that we would say is sort of middle of the road, right? Just 2 courses required, not a super high GPA required for them to declare. Most of the time, they'll have these 4 courses completed within the first 2 semesters. Something else that's really helpful here is like a direct link to the department. So again, like if your student's exploring, maybe trying to look into a different major, or was undeclared and is still exploring, trying to figure out which major, they can click on this, and then it will get them directly to the department's webpage. And this is probably like the best way to investigate a particular major. It's how the major sort of shows itself off, right? Like you'll get a welcome, you'll get sometimes an explanation of the different course requirements, research that's going on in the department, what is the faculty doing, what type of support's available, maybe a definition of what the major kind of entails, what the department entails. So really good way to kind of get a feel for what the major's about. Oftentimes you'll see a link if you were to look at this, like course requirements, etc. So definitely check that out. You'll see also student organization info, why a sociology degree, maybe career options related to this specific degree, lots of important info. So that's an example of kind of one that's sort of like down the middle. We can use our favorite example here of nursing if we want, under the College of Health and Human Services. And you can see why I'm suggesting the student find a parallel plan. But if you go over down here to nursing BSN, this is the one that majority of our students would want to look at. There is another option for students who are already nurses, right? But this is specifically the students who start here as first year and are trying to get into the BSN. You can read through this paragraph, but basically there's a minimum GPA of 3.25. Now, you could probably count on one hand the number of students that get in with a 3.25. It's probably much closer to a 4.0 GPA. They have to have a minimum grade of C or better in all these classes listed: anatomy, physiology, microbiology, chemistry, for nursing. They have to have a statistics class. They have to have these foundation courses completed. Also, they need to complete what's called the TEAS test of essential academic skills, and score at a specific point in order to be offered admission. So that's kind of an example of like kind of an extreme example. I want to give one more here. College of Engineering. This has our various engineering programs the students are interested in. Just for example, aerospace and mechanical, minimum cumulative GPA of 2.5, but has to have calculus 1, calculus 2 completed, mechanics and heat, written communication, GE requirement, oral communication, GE requirement. Oftentimes our students come in not necessarily at the level to do calculus right away. They may need to meet a prerequisite. They may need to do both trigonometry and college algebra, or they may need to even do a course level below that. So again, just it's important that students start looking at these and talk to academic advisors related to navigating these requirements. It requires a sequence of courses. 122 has to be completed prior to 123. And there are various other major requirements in addition to the major specific requirements that have to be completed. So it's just important that a student kind of be aware of, number one, kind of where they want to go or what general direction they want to go, and then that they start taking courses that will help meet these requirements and test them out. So that probably prompted quite a few other questions. Maybe we can go
Yes.
back to the list.
So we do have a question. We just want to
Sure.
confirm if it was answered.
Yeah.
My daughter is undeclared, but wants to be in pre-nursing. At
Sure.
what point can she change into the major?
So if she's undeclared currently, what we're doing is making recommendations for courses that will satisfy what we call first year requirements. So going back to that list, basically it's the GE foundation courses. So she has to complete the GE foundation courses, all of GE category A, written communication, oral communication, critical thinking, and then a statistics course within the first 2 semesters. She's got to earn a B or better in all of those courses, or she will not be eligible to move into the pre-nursing status at the end of the second semester. In addition to that, she's also got to do an introductory psychology course, Psychology 100, and introductory sociology course. Those also have to be a B or better. So those are very specific. If she told us that she was interested in that, if she's already had her advising appointment, she received a green handout. If she did it in person, if not, she was sent that electronically, and that outlines all those requirements. Basically, if a student doesn't earn a B in those courses, any of the ones that she's enrolled in for the fall term, we check grades. If she's not earning that B or better, then she has to find an alternative major. Then we check again in spring. If she hasn't satisfied those requirements or hasn't earned a B or better in all those, then she has to find an alternative major. We also suggest undeclared students enroll in a course called Counseling 191. That is basically a career and personal exploration class. The reason we suggest that is they need to understand exactly what's required to move into that pre-nursing status to then become eligible to then apply to the nursing program, but it also will help them find a parallel plan. It's very important to have a parallel plan. Students that don't have parallel plans will not get into nursing. It's really important that they come up with that backup plan because, again, the vast majority of students who apply do not get into the program. And that's the only program that works that way, but that is the reality. Good
Thank you.
question.
Follow-up question. If you need to complete all major specific classes by 60 units, what happens if you change majors?
Yeah, if you change majors, there's a possibility of getting an extension on that. But in most cases, what we would do is work with the student to help them try to get back on track. So to get back on track, I mean, we suggest that students take courses at a community college during the summer. And we suggest that for most students. So kind of get used to hearing that recommendation. It's always a good idea to kind of take a course or two at the community college during the summer, just to make sure that, you're navigating and staying on track. Students, we have articulation agreements with all of the local community colleges, basically with any community college within the state. Definitely wouldn't recommend like going out of state to take something at a community college, but take it within the state, and we can guarantee that a course is either meeting a GE requirement or is articulated as being directly equivalent to a lower division course here. So I would, strongly suggest having a student do that. But yeah, if they change their major, it depends on when they change it. If they change it like the end of the first year, we may need to play catch up a little bit, but also depends on the major. There are some majors that don't have a long list of major specific requirements, and a transition is really easy. It may, there are majors, I didn't give the example here, but there are majors on here, especially within the College of Liberal Arts, that just require like specific categories be completed. Here's an example: anthropology, minimum GPA 2.0. You just have to have G category C, D, and F completed, and then the foundations. So students are generally taking these as part of their course schedules, and like a transition to a major like that wouldn't be that difficult. Not saying the major is not difficult, but the transition to pursuing that as a major would be relatively easy to do.
Okay. Can you do a rundown again for what first-time first-year students should have done in the summer?
Should have done in this summer coming in. That
was the question.
Yeah, so I mean, most of the time, first year students are completing a freshman survey, advising survey, first year advising survey. And that's basically just giving us information on transfer credit and then what majors they're interested in, and if they're interested in changing their major. That's mainly it. Aside from that, they'll be sent a request to make an appointment in most cases. There are whole swaths of departments that like haven't started advising and registration, mainly like we're talking like science and math, like they haven't started yet. So they'll send out information, but most importantly, I would just say right now, have your student check email. If there's anything they need to do, if there's any responsibility they have, then they'll be sent an email about it. What's happening right now too is that the email is being transferred from like their personal email they were using when they applied to their student email. Okay, so if they've activated their student email, you should be able to ask them about that. Then they should be checking that every day, and that's the primary email that university sends correspondence to.
Okay. Thank you very much. These are the questions from the chat box.
Cool.
However, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself if the chat feature is something that you're not able to do at this time.
Definitely.
So we'll allow a couple of seconds for that. And if not, Josh, if you would like to share more about the
Yeah.
website, you have time. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at our webpage. So again, this is the University Center for Undergraduate Advising, UCUA. Again, a little rundown of some of the stuff that we help students with. Um, let's go down here. Actually, if you go off to the left, one thing that I find that's sort of unique for our center is we actually have contact information for our entire team. What we've done with exploring students is basically assigned each and every one of them a primary advisor, or we will be in the process of assigning them a primary advisor. So we've got everyone listed here. We've even got me listed here. Little sneak peek. This is where you can find an email account for me if you wanted to email me something. Thanks. No, I'm just kidding. Anything you'd like. Definitely any questions that come up after today, feel free to do that. We've also got just contact information for our various advisors. So if your student is exploring, if they met with someone, have them ask for that person's name. Okay. They should have received a specific invitation to make an appointment if they were part of, the group that's already kind of has an orientation date. They will get a specific invitation from an advisor, and then that will include the advisor's email. So they can always respond to that if they have questions. Okay. My director's info is on here. This is me and my associate director as well. But this is where you can contact us. We also have a general email address. It's just AA-advising. And then we also have information about drop-in advising. So all of our advisors do drop-ins, and this is kind of our availability. Right now, it's pretty minimal as we assist first-time, first-year students, but in the future, this is where your student can see, when we're available in person. We're also available via Zoom if they want to use a Zoom, do a Zoom meeting. I wanted to show you all this page, resources. Some good stuff in here. A link to that major specific requirement list I was just at and mentioned. The catalog is helpful. Pretty much any rule, regulation, policy that a student would want to look into is in the catalog. Other really great thing in here is just course descriptions. So maybe even, if your student's sharing their course schedule with you and you have some questions about, hey, what is like COM 131? I don't know what that means. You could just put that in here. May take a second, but eventually if this pulls up, let's see. Doesn't want to pull up for me here. This should work. There we go. And it's basically just a search engine, but if you click on this best match, what I was looking for was a course description. Okay. So COM 131, if you see something like that in your student's schedule, you can read about that particular course. So it's Essentials of Argumentation. Basically, it satisfies the critical thinking general education requirement. And then there's a brief paragraph about what the student would do in the class: the theory of argumentation, examination of form, source of evidence, inductive, deductive arguments, etc. So a good way to kind of get a feel for what your student's going to be doing in that particular class. But all rules, regulations, different resources in the university catalog. What else in here? Schedule of classes is also very helpful. And then I think specifically tutoring. Okay, definitely look at that. There's a comprehensive list of tutoring by subject that a student has access to. And then academic support services, campus services, computer labs, student support groups, things like that. Additional campus resources. This is basically just an alphabetical list of different support resources on campus. Tons of stuff to support your student. Also mentioned, I think we're getting close to the end here, right, Amy? But also mentioned kind of what our students are held to. And I say our students, again, this is like exploring first-time, first-year students, or students who have a particular major in mind but need to transition into the pre-major. This is what we have them do to prepare for mandatory advising. So we have fall advising modules that get sent to the student during the fall term. First one's sent during summer to prepare for the semester. We have one called Staying the Course, which is additional resources supporting academics. And then we have a fall advising and registration module. And then in the spring, we have them look at additional preparatory information. We have them do an exploring careers and majors module. This is a great one. This basically helps students look into what they think they might want to do career-wise. We pair closely with our career development center on campus. The Career Development Center basically has career counselors who are experts at helping students navigate how a major potentially applies to that next step of like seeking out a career. And then we have our spring advising and registration module. All these are publicly facing. So again, like if you wanted to visit this, go to our webpage, click on current students, and you can check all these out. We also got information for our second year students, our students who maybe have transitioned to us after the first year and need to find a new major, or who are just deciding to find a new major. We have information for them. And just kind of more information about what we do to help students. So help them navigate those major specific requirements, help them understand academic standing, help them understand degree progress. And I think kind of the final thing I wanted to cover was another resource we use for exploring students or students looking for alternative majors. It's a resource that all of your students have access to, but it's csulb.mymajors.com. If your student is kind of iffy on the major, I would definitely have them complete this assessment. It's very short. It's basically just asking questions about interest, number one, but it's also asking questions about aptitude. It does ask about grades, test scores, GPA, any AP courses completed, etc. But then it also asks about course enjoyment, extracurriculars, personal preferences, values. So if your student completes this, after answering the questions, what it will do is suggest 10 majors at Cal State Long Beach that they may want to investigate. There's also a link to those major specific requirements and then a link to the department webpage. So again, if your student's kind of iffy or on the fence and they want to kind of maybe explore alternatives, this is a great place to start. Again, it's just csulb.mymajors.com. I'll throw it in the chat. And I think we have some more questions.
We do. We have one question in the chat, which is, what is Beach XP?
Yeah, good question. Beach XP is a totally new program. Basically, we have a variety of learning communities and have had learning communities over the years. Learning community is basically, it's a high impact practice. If you're knowledgeable about higher education, basically students that participate in learning communities have been found to be more successful statistically. Beach XP, you could Google it, but basically it's short for Beach Experience, and it's a new program that is basically pairing specific courses together in a specific location on lower campus so that students can kind of basically build rapport with other students and go through specific experiences with those students. It's basically creating a cohort. So these are all based on colleges. So, College of Science and Math will have its Beach XP, the College of Health and Human Services, College of Liberal Arts, etc. Even undeclared, we basically got a Beach XP for our students interested in getting into nursing. We've also got a Beach XP for our students interested in getting into STEM. There are specific criteria that we've come up with to like put students into this particular experience. So your student would have to like meet the criteria. It's basically related to students who need extra support. That's for our group, specifically for undeclared. For other colleges, they may have different criteria for including a student in Beach XP. But the main goal is to basically have them make connection, right? Connect with other students, connect with faculty. Basically, the faculty from the paired courses will kind of be aware of the assignments going on in both, so that they can make sure that the student is, getting a balanced level of coursework. And then there's additional experiences that are included. So this is kind of mainly having a home base for learning and activities, build a peer network, gain support, navigating first year requirements, getting personalized guidance. And then there's also going to be like social activities and skill building. I think they're still finishing up like the different experiences that are like tagged on to this program. But I saw that there was going to be stuff like the Learning Center, our main tutoring center, was going to come out and do like basically learning style assessments or information about like time management. I think the student health and wellness was going to come out and give students information about being healthy in lots of different ways, right? Those are just examples, but I think even ASI and like student life and development are going to be contributing to that to help your student get connected to the various activities that are available here. It's a big place, massive place, right? This is almost like its own city, right? So to get integrated and to get aware of the different resources that are available that students like pay into or you pay into related to paying these student fees, we want to make sure that students are utilizing them, and this is just like one way to do that is Beach XP. But you can always just Google Beach XP and then also just have your student talk to their academic advisor about it. Each college should have its own Beach XP page as well. So if you put in like the colleges like College of Science and Math, Beach XP, Google that, you should find out what they're doing specifically. Same thing for Health and Human Services, liberal arts, ed, so forth. Great question.
Thank you very much for answering all of our questions. At this point, we are reaching towards the end of our presentation. We would like to encourage any final questions. I'll wait a couple of seconds to think about any last questions that we may have. Again, this information is provided to you all by University Center for Undergraduate Advising. They have provided their website where you can continue to look at where you can contact for any questions that may come up during the week or during your first semester of your student. Additionally, they are here to provide that support, ongoing support via email and phone. Again, thank you, Josh, for this presentation and for providing an opportunity really for families, parents, and guardians to know how to access these types of services on campus. So we did receive a thanks on behalf
Thanks,
of one
Elizabeth.
of our participants today. So thank you for that. Again, this will conclude our question and answer discussions that we have for today with our presenters. So again, thank you so much, Josh, for being a part of this, and we look forward to our partnership. And thank you very much for your time for today. If parents, guardians, and supporters would like to continue to stay connected and informed of different types of services offered through our parent and family programs, I am providing the details here within our slide. If you have any questions regarding anything regarding parent orientations, fireside chats, or our beach portal, feel free to give us a call or an email. Through email, it takes us about 48 hours to respond, but that is one way that you can connect with us. Again, our phone number is 562-985-5515. You're welcome to give us a call again and also email us with any questions that you may have or concerns. If this was of interest to you, we would love to see you again in our upcoming Fireside Chats. Again, our next PFO Fireside Chat will be on Wednesday, June 28th. We'll be having a different campus partner. This time we'll have our Student Recreation and Wellness Center that will provide a similar presentation as Josh did today with his department, but with a different topic. We do have other Fireside Chats happening in July and in August. I have provided the different topics that we'll be having. Again, these are 1-hour live sessions. We're able to connect with our campus departments, learn more about how to navigate these different types of resources, have some tips, and ultimately answer your questions. Again, thank you so much for your time and being here today. We would like for you to continue to stay connected with us. I have provided our QR codes for our different types of activities and resources that we offer here. We have our parent and family orientations that are still ongoing. We have those in the month of June and in August. If you're interested in participating in a full day where we go through different types of resources on campus, including a campus tour, you're more than welcome to participate in that. We also have our fireside chats that I just covered briefly in the month of June, July, and August. You're welcome to participate in those as well. Those are free, whereas the parent and family orientations have a cost to them. Lastly, if you'd like to stay connected with us, we do have what is an online platform called Beach Family Portal. That is where we provide any types of resources, tips. We have any articles, perhaps, that parents, guardians, and family supporters can benefit from. Again, these are different ways that you can stay engaged with our campus. And lastly, we would like to welcome you to our Long Beach State family. Again, we are thankful for your time and opportunity today, especially learning more about what our campus has to offer for your students and you yourself. Again, thank you for your time. And with this, we'll be ending our session for today. Go Beach. Again, thank you, Josh, for your time, and we look forward to having you in the upcoming weeks with our different PFO events. So thank you, and thank you everyone for today for being here. Again, welcome to the beach, and we look forward to working very closely with your student. This will conclude our session for today. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely
Thanks.
rest of your evening.